Today is March 30th, I'm sorry. Today is March 29th, 2014. We're at the house of Harry K. Williams, who was a World War II veteran. We're going to do the interview. And Harry's birthday. Okay, he was born on June 8th, 1924. And it's just me and Harry Williams that are doing the interview. Okay. So, Mr. Harry, can you tell me where you came from? Where you came from? Where were you born and raised?
Shinnecock Indian Reservation, Southampton, New York.
Okay. Okay. And were you living, where were you living at the time when you were drafted?
On the Shinnecock Indian Reservation.
Okay. And what was the story behind your drafting? Can you tell us?
The story behind my...
How you enlisted in the service.
Because my cousin, we were like two brothers, grew up together. He had been drafted, and I wanted to go in the service with him. I was in high school at the time, but I asked to be drafted in the Army.
Okay. And why did you join? Why did you join?
Why did I? Because I wanted to go because Milton was coming.
Okay.
And that's what I recall from 70-some years ago.
Okay. And do you recall your first days in the service?
Well,
let me put on. Okay. So, do you recall your first days in the service? When you first got in the service, do you recall what was going on?
Well, the first days in the service, after getting inducted, was in Camp Upton, up here in Suffolk County.
Oh, okay.
And that's where, until we found out where we were going and what was happening. And I got my start from Camp Upton, and from there we went to Salina, Kansas. They was starting a new camp there. I wound up in the engineers, the non-combat engineers, 366. But and then when we got there, it seemed like, first of all, we were briefed that being a Native American, you could go in with the white troops or in them days they called them the colored troops, Negro troops.
Mm-hmm.
And we preferred to go with the colored troops, the Negro troops.
Mm-hmm.
Not really knowing what everything was all about. And then that's when I experienced all this segregation.
Mm.
And I never was happy with that. I'd never been through it. But that was the Army in them days.
Hmm. Do you remember your instructors?
What's that?
Do you remember any of your instructors in boot camp?
Any of my
Instructors, the ones that showed you what you had to do in boot camp? Do you know any stories about that?
Well, after we left camp, we was instructed at Camp Upton,
Mm-hmm.
and then went on the troop trains to, as I said, Salina, Kansas, Camp Phillips. And then that's when the officers at the time were young Negro officers from officers training, I guess, but the higher up officers were all white. So there's one of my first lieutenant up here in a picture up on the mantle. But it was very segregated, the service at the time.
What war did you serve in?
What war did I serve in?
Mm-hmm.
World War II.
Okay. And where exactly did you go? Mm-hmm. Where exactly did you go?
I went from Camp Upton to, as I keep saying, Salina, Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Camp Phillips. And then after training and all, we went from there to camp in Tennessee. Oh boy. I thought I had all that down on that.
No, it wasn't on there. Let's see.
On that, all that layout.
No, it's not in here. It's not on that paper either. Well, just tell me what you know, okay? We'll go from what you know.
Well, from Tennessee, I'm trying to think of the camp down there. We went to Europe.
Okay.
Wound up in England until D-Day, invasion, and then we went over, the outfit went across the channel to wound up in Belgium. France and Belgium, and that's what I recall right now.
Oh, okay. That was nice. And what did you do when you went to Belgium? What was your job?
Just being in this, in the military, and I got all that down on that paper there.
It's not on
You
that
don't
paper.
seem to have.
No.
Well, it's all on one of them papers. All my information. Well, look in there. And
It's not in those piles. I looked all through it.
Let me
But I'm just going by what you remember, because I can't put what's on paper. It has to come from you and what you remember.
I got it all on
Okay.
paper when I could think, and all right. When I was inducted, and where I went, and what.
This is all that you, these are the older papers that you had there, besides this thing. I'm going to pause this.
Engineer, the engineer equipment,
So you worked with the, like the, on the trucks and things like that?
no, it come to me. Oh, what did they call it there? The sergeant where they supply everything.
Oh,
The supply sergeant.
yeah, quartermaster.
And no, it wasn't quartermaster. In oh God,
That's okay. It'll come to you.
Let me get some of it right.
Okay.
The supply sergeant, and then I was in charge of supplies and the equipment, like the engineer tools and things they had to work with, the picks and shovels and all the tools that the engineers use. I was responsible to keep check of them and sign them out, have them, when they took them out of the field, out of the supply room, and responsible that they were returned and kept them in good condition, and, which was a big responsibility. So I had the rank of what it says on there.
Technician. Technician, 5th grade.
That was a corporal, but that was a fancy title.
Oh.
And that's what rings a bell now.
Okay. Did you see any combat?
No, we were non-combat.
Okay.
But we was sometimes very close to where things was happening. You could always hear planes and bombs, but we wasn't in actual. I never saw no actual combat, but it was scary at times because he was always close, not too far away.
Okay, what Tell me about a couple of your most memorable experiences being over in the Pacific Theater there, the European theater.
Um, I, my experiences,
Yeah, did you see any parts of the towns or villages? Did you interact with any of the local people in the cities that you went
I
to?
met very friendly people, and in my heart, I never had no ill feelings against anyone. They never did anything to me, but I got along with what was to say, in England
Hmm.
and over in France, Belgium, and biggest trouble was segregation,
Mm.
and the white troops, some of them was brought that segregation over there,
Oh.
and then some of the biggest, I'd say, battles that I saw was you go into a town, and if the white troops was in there, they tried to keep everything segregated over there,
Mm.
and you had to defend yourself. So I had one outfit. We was in a town, and the white commander of the white troops told our commander that they'd have certain nights to come to town. His outfit would come one time, and then the other troops could come in at their time. And our officer told him, he said, no such thing. My men will come to town, and when they have a pass and if they have to defend themselves, they will.
Mm.
And it wasn't pleasant. So I don't want to say a whole lot of things that someday someone's going to question me, and I like to have facts before me when I talk. But that's what I recall right now,
Okay.
especially in England.
Mm-hmm.
And we have what did they call it? Like the dancers, and if you went to what was he done, the USO,
Mm-hmm.
and you went to a dance, and you met the young ladies there, and they liked to dance and be friendly, and they would tell you what the white troops were saying
Mm.
and always put us on alert to be careful, and so we had to defend ourselves. That's as far as I can relate to over 70-some years ago.
Oh, well, that was good. What about the countryside? What was the country like?
Well, regular country, it was beautiful, even in the towns, and what little you would see if you got a chance to go to London or go pass through there on a pass, or the other there's places called Bristol and Cardiff and Chepstow. I can't think of all of it right now. But people were friendly. But as far as any big combat duty, we never, I don't recall of being in it.
What kind of, like, nowadays they have all these fancy tents and stuff. Can you describe what you guys slept in when you were overseas?
What was what?
What kind of sleeping arrangements did you have when you were overseas?
Sleeping arrangements?
What kind of tents did you have and things like that?
Well, some places they had you had the big, the tents. Some places you had to set up as we call it, a pup tent. You recall that? And other places there was camps that had been used, and then you'd get into a big, huge building, and the army would set that up for oh boy. Well, I showed you these pictures up here on the mantle. They were taken in Salina, Kansas, in Camp Phillips.
So all the people that are in those photos, they also went with you? You stayed in the same group when you went overseas?
Yeah, I met Red Lincoln, who married here in Shinnecock, but he was already out when we arrived in Camp Phillips, Kansas, Salina. Red was already there. And Glenn Hunter and Milton and I and young men from Riverhead, all the surrounding communities, was West Hampton and Bridgehampton. And
do you recall any medals or citations that you got?
I didn't do anything there other than I had a good conduct medal and for trying to do right and behave. But as far as any big medals, I never did none to earn a medal. It was just a general
The Southwest Theater
service, and I was there.
Mm-hmm. The World War II medal. Okay. Now, when you came back from, well, how did you stay in touch with your family while you were overseas?
You could write, letters.
Mm-hmm.
Then they had the V-mail, they call it, Victory Mail.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You kept in touch with your family, and they would write and know where you was at. Get a letter from home. And my mother and sisters and friends. And then keep in touch with, where the other servicemen were. You keep in touch with them by sending them a letter. And that's as far as I can.
Okay. Let's see. What was the food like in the service?
Well, you had regular army cooks. As I say, they put the food together and called it chow. And you get your mess kit and get online and go through the chow line and get whatever they served you. And if there's any left, you might get a second helping. And if you was in a camp where they had a dining area, you sit down at the table and sergeant in charge would bless the food and you'd eat your meal. So they had the regular old army cooks and could put things together. And then if you was put on, what did they call it? KP duty camp. Peeling the potatoes and whatever else, yeah. But that has not much to do with the winning the war.
And where were you when they announced D-Day?
I was from Belgium, I guess.
Okay.
What day was D-Day?
Oh. I forgot. I don't know.
I know the war ended and it was announced, and then we was all put on a list of outfits to come back to. Some of them went right from Europe to the Pacific, and some of the troops were given a 30-day boy.
Pass.
Come to the States for 30 days and then go to the, which I've mentioned that.
Mm-hmm. So what did you do in the days and the weeks after you got out of the military?
After I got out of the military, they had one of the benefits they had, it was called, we called it 5220. You got $20 a week for 52 weeks. That was your benefit.
Oh, boy.
And some men went to work, even though in them days you could buy a little something for $20. But some didn't want to go to work right away. And we seemed to manage. When that run out, I guess we went to work, found a job.
Mm-hmm.
I was 21 when I was out of the service.
Oh.
And did a lot of little jobs, odd jobs. Managed to get along. So that was, and I met good friends in the service. Kept in touch with some of them. And my good friend right over there, Bob Stinnett, he died with cancer. His son stays in touch with me.
Hmm.
And there's not that many of the old World War II veterans left.
No, it's not.
I guess Ed Garrett. I don't know if Casio was.
No.
I don't think so. But Ed Garrett and your dad, and my brother Tom and Lubin. There was a lot of I don't know what you'd call them, but for World War II veterans themselves, there's very few left.
Mm-hmm.
Korean War and all those other conflicts were still recognized as veterans, but the actual World War II was very few left.
Mm-hmm.
Are we getting anywhere with
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, the next question I'm going to ask you, did your military experience help you with getting employed after you got out of the service? Did your tasks that you learned while you were in the military, did you carry that on into your civilian life?
Well, the experience of having to do things right and do them the right way, when I could tell myself, so I was able to get along. If something didn't belong to me, then you leave it alone. And I had a lot of little jobs and odd jobs with responsibility and accountability. You had to account for what you were doing. And so I was able to get along. I went to work for the moving company,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a responsible job to be trusted with moving people's goods and transporting them back and forth. But if something didn't belong to you, you just kept your hands off it.
Did you ever have any reunions with your old unit?
They never quite got that together. Some of the veterans that lived in Brooklyn, we know where different men were at, and we'd meet along the way. If I went to Brooklyn or Manhattan or Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as having a big reunion, we never had it.
Mm.
Nobody never got it together.
Mm.
And I always wondered where any of them old veterans are. That if I'm 90 years old, and there was some of them older than I, we was in there, and some of them younger. But I don't hear or see any of them anymore.
Mm. After the war, did you ever travel back over to where you had served?
Did I do what?
Did you ever travel back to England or Belgium? No.
No. I crossed that ocean once, twice, going and coming, and I never went back over there. I went to Hawaii twice, but and I went down to San Juan, Puerto Rico several times on my own, but to go back to Europe, I never didn't go back there.
Mm. Is there anything you would like to add that we haven't talked about?
Well, Susan, as I say, I try to keep my mind active and sit here or lay in my bed, think of things, and some things get away from me, and then after a while it'll come back in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But 70-some years ago, when you don't have anyone to talk with about them, it gets away from you.
Mm-hmm.